Nothing beats paying off $38,000. That's a good feeling. When friends would ask to go out to eat, I'm like, sorry, I can't.
What was the most expensive thing you ended up selling?
My mother-in-law gave me,
Disclaimer, click off this video now if you're looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. You're about to hear Maddy's story of how she got into debt and how she got herself out. It's all very relatable and realistic, but it was a grind. So please, be nice in the comments. She took her time to hop on and put herself out there. And with that, thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm Maddy. I'm 27 years old. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and this is No Secrets Podcast.
First off, how much debt did you pay on?
I paid just over $38,000 of debt. It was a lot.
And how long did that take?
Like a year on the dot. I really wanted to get it done in a year, so I was like, we're going to do it.
Whew. And so impressive. And for you, that $38,000, what was that debt made of?
It was all student loans, some of it private, most of it private, some of it like the government or whatever you would call that. I can't remember.
And you had federal loans?
Federal, yes. Yeah.
And at the time of paying this off that year, what was your range of income from when you started versus where you ended?
Not a lot, because I was still in school when I was working like a lot of odd jobs, but it was somewhere probably like in the like 25 to 30 range. And then by the end, it was probably around like 45 or so. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense how I paid it off, but I guess we could talk about that too.
Yeah, no, that means someone was hustling and someone probably did not eat out that much.
No, it was, a year long, thankfully during the pandemic. So like no one was doing anything fun. But we did like no gifts for each other. I mean, I was just dating my husband. I can't remember if we were engaged then or not, but we didn't do anything fun for a year, like nothing.
Dang. Okay, yeah, let's dive into that. Just a brief overview. What did you do to pay off this debt?
So I, of course, looked at my budget, really made it to what are the essentials. And as someone that is really, really passionate about their health, I really made sure hey, I'm still going to eat healthy. I'm still going to take care of my body. And of course I had some luxuries, I have a home gym, so I wasn't paying for a gym membership and things like that. But I really just sold whatever I had possible, including things my parents didn't want, and I sold their junk for them. I was working as much as I could, picking up tons of hours. I was working at a gym at a time. I was head coach of a gym. So I was working a ton. I can't remember if I was dog walking at that point, but I think I was dog walking too. But I was just doing everything and anything, selling old clothes on Poshmark. I was just doing whatever I could to make more money. I was watching pets, things like that.
Wow, dang, you were hustling. So I want to dive into all of these different side hustles and jobs that you went through. But before we jump into that, why was student debt something you were willing, or why was school something you were willing to go into debt for?
Well, and not that I regret the education that I got, because I think education is great in some form. But I had originally started my higher education at Akron to become a dietitian. And after one semester, I realized I hate Ohio. And I was like, I don't want to stay here. And it was really expensive just for, out of state. So I came home and then was going to a community college, and I was going to transfer to a different school. And so I knew after that, I was like, I don't want to be in a ton of debt, because if I would have stayed at Akron, I would have been over $100,000 in debt. So I knew staying was not an option for the life I wanted to live. So it was worth it in that end for me.
You know what else is worth it? Subscribing to this channel. You guys have been so supportive on the shorts, so let's keep growing this community of adults who are trying to reach their goal of financial peace.
I ended up going to Robert Morris, and it was very much like a plan B degree that I got, because I started my business one semester in and now I do that full time. So I was like, why did I do that? But it's okay. I have a degree I don't use. So you know how that goes.
People don't realize, out-of-state schools can literally triple your cost of tuition. Was that where you picked up most of the student loan debt?
15,000 was at Akron, and then the rest of it was at I think a tiny bit at the community college. I paid most of that out of pocket, and the rest I would say was Robert Morris.
What was the conversation with your parents, or what was the conversation around how you were going to pay for school?
Yeah, so I like to say we weren't poor enough. That's the term. We weren't poor enough to get a ton of help, but we made too much, so we weren't poor enough in that aspect. And my sister got a little bit of money for her college, and then for me, I knew I'm probably not getting anything. It was just kind of the circumstances with my grandpa and, health and things like that. So I just knew it probably they won't be able to help me with that, but that's okay. I can figure it out. I've always been raised to like, just figure it out. You have to do something. You'll figure out a way how to make it work. So I think I did a Parent Plus loan for Akron. And I also had that kind of hanging over my head. Like, oh my gosh, like if something were to happen to me, my mom would have these loans in her name because, student loans never die. But I knew, if I was going to finish out school, like regardless, it was always going to be on me to figure it out.
At least you had that sense of personal responsibility, even when taking it out. What was the moment you decided to really go hard and start this debt payoff journey?
Well, actually, my best friend, she was like, have you ever heard of Dave Ramsey? And I was like, no, who's that? And then I kid you not, like a month later after binging like all of his podcasts and show, I was like, I'm going to do this. So that's kind of like, it was like a month after that. I think I paid them off March. I think I just saw my post recently. It was like March 26, 2021. So it'd be like maybe January, February of 2020 when I found Dave Ramsey.
Was that right when you graduated from college? Or...
No, so I was still in school.
Oh, okay. So you're already in school thinking about paying it off. That's rare.
It was on my mind like forever. I'm like, these are going to come, at some point. And what I didn't want to do is I really wanted to go full time in my business, but I always had in the back of my mind, like I had these loans, it's a lot of money. What if I'm not successful right off the bat? Because if anyone here, who I'm sure a lot of your followers are entrepreneurs of some sort, they know the first couple of years are hard no matter what. And I really wanted to invest heavier into my business, but I couldn't in good conscience knowing I have almost 40,000 in loans that are hanging over my head.
What was the first business in college that you first started?
The same one I'm in now. It's Nourish and Lift Coaching. I'm a women's health and fitness coach, so I work with women, helping them get stronger. But yeah, I started that in 2018 December.
And was this the primary income throughout the whole debt payoff journey? Did you ever get a 9-to-5 job?
I never had a regular 9-to-5 job. At one point, it's just crazy to think about. I was in school. I was working at, I think, 2 different gyms. I wasn't head coach of the one gym yet. And I was dog walking and I was doing an unpaid internship. Yeah. So I was doing a lot at once. But I didn't go full time in my business until almost 2 years ago. So it took some time to get there.
Let's talk about this origin story of the debt payoff. Your friend brought up Dave Ramsey. The YouTube algorithm heard you and recommended all his videos. And from there, there's a difference from just listening and hearing about these stories and the debt-free schemes to actually doing it yourself. What were the first action steps towards paying off your $38,000 of debt?
I guess the first thing, kind of like how he teaches, is like creating, the budget, the things you have to spend money on. So I knew like my non-negotiables for life pretty much. And then just listing everything from, biggest to smallest of my loans. And then it just went from there. So if I like sold something like a pair of shoes or a shirt, whatever, as soon as I got that money, I just put it right into there, making payments on the principal as much as I could. Literally got a paycheck. I remember even, do you remember during the pandemic when we got like the pandemic paychecks?
Yeah, the stimulus checks.
Yeah, pandemic paycheck, what do you want to call it? I put it right to loans. Like I looked at it and I'm like, oh, it looks so nice, and put it right to loans. So.
Wow, you didn't use it for concerts?
No, I've been not weird, but I've never been like someone that like does a lot of, stuff like that. I guess I've just been kind of like, when you're running a business, when you're like, 23, you're not going to, out drinking. Like you're not staying out late, you're working. So that's kind of been like my whole like young 20-year-old life.
Were you on paper doing this? Were you on like a phone app?
Oh yeah, I'm a very much like a Google Sheets spreadsheet. I have everything written out. I still do our finances that way for my husband and I. And he's like, how do you make that work in an Excel sheet? I'm like, it's fine. I know how to do it. Don't worry. But yeah, very much spreadsheets. And then I'm like a visual, like I love the cross out. So I would have like every time I put some more money into it, I would just cross it out and then put the next new total that I have to work towards.
So for people who are watching and wondering, where do I even start with paying off debt? It sounds like you first got to figure out how much you're burning each month. Like how much do you actually need to survive? What do you call it? The 4 walls, right? Your transportation, shelter, food. Once you know those are covered, everything else on top of that should be going towards paying off those debts, then you're freed up to actually start doing things you probably want to do with your money, like investing and putting money towards your future. But right now, yeah, getting yourself out of debt should be the priority. So let's get started on these side hustles. What were some of the first unique ways of paying off debts?
I'm not sure if it was like the dog walking or like the let me clean out my house and sell everything I don't use. But dog walking was super easy. It's super fun if you like dogs, of course. You can do, you can do as many clients as you want. You can add on more. You get paid more on holidays. I mean, it's a super easy gig, and I suggest like anyone in their 20s or even older, if you want to do that just for fun. Like my mom always says when she retires, she's going to do it just for fun because she loves animals.
So, okay, I've heard of the Rover app. I've heard of WAG. Sounds like you're working in a smaller company, but those things are really easy jobs that you can start right away.
And then the let me clean out my entire house. That was fun because I love cleaning and organizing and being a minimalist with things. So that was easy because people on Facebook buy everything, anything. I've sold, my dad had bikes he didn't use. I sold those, shoes, clothes, a blender I didn't use anymore. Anything I had, I was it's going. If you don't use it in the past 6 months, we're not using it anymore.
What was the most expensive thing you ended up selling that you put towards your loans?
I don't think I had anything that was maybe, you know what, it might have been, my mother-in-law gave me an expensive, not like the Dyson, but some kind of a hair tool I don't use. I'm I didn't need it. And she's oh, I don't want it. And I bought it. I don't need it. I was okay, so you don't mind if I sell it? And I sold it. I think it was maybe $75, but maybe one of the bikes was probably around 100, but none of the stuff was that much. It was just a lot of things that I was selling and accumulated. So even if it was $10, I was I don't care. It's $10 left I have to pay. So I just kept going at it. And if they say to eat an elephant, you take one bite at a time. That's the exact approach I took with my loans.
I was leaning in when you were talking about something your mother-in-law gave you.
No, just it was a straightener or something I don't use. I have one already. I'm just going to sell it.
Yeah, and you talked to her about it before.
Yeah.
What were people saying to you while you were on this journey? Did they think you were crazy? Were they supportive?
Yes. My sister in particular, at Christmas, I remember, I'm I'm not doing gifts. You don't have to buy me anything. And she's really? I think she was a little butthurt about that because I do love gift giving. That's one of my love languages. So I think that was a bit odd. And when friends would ask to go out to eat, I'm sorry, I can't. Do you want to go for a walk?
On top of that, going for walks, what were some of the creative ways you still had fun while paying off this debt?
Well, I'm someone that loves to invite friends to do other things than just go out to eat because I don't drink alcohol. So going out for drinks, I'll go with someone, but it's not, I'll get water. It's not very super fun to me. But I always ask friends, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to go kayaking? I have kayaks. Do you want to go biking? I have bikes. So I'm that friend that's always let's go do something else besides spending money because there's a lot of other ways we can have fun than spending money in general.
Yeah, I don't drink alcohol either. And that's expensive. That's another bill on top of the meal itself. When eating out, that's definitely a big perk. And I guess it forces you to get more creative as well too. And when you're saving money on a budget, honestly, I think those creative ideas are the most memorable and fun anyway.
Yeah, doing puzzles, and my friend had a paint set. We painted a lot of stuff like that. But I don't know if I lost friends during that time, but I definitely was getting my friends oh, okay, sure, maybe I'll do that.
What were some of your first wins on your debt payoff journey?
Being able to invest in my Roth IRA because I hadn't invested in retirement yet, and I really wanted to. So I think now by the time I'm I don't know, 40, late 40s, 50s, I'll have $1 million in there, which is not to be oh, I'll have $1 million, but that's really cool. When you start young, that can happen.
And for you, were there moments where you felt discouraged or maybe you were lacking in motivation throughout this debt payoff journey?
I mean, a year, 12 months is a long time to not have fun in the traditional sense. My husband loves to go out to dinner. So we were not doing that at all for a year. I know that's one of his favorite things was to go out to eat, try different things. So there were times where I'm oh, I really want to do this, but I know that $70, that $50 can just go and, make it better. But I just kept in the back of my mind, The harder I go at this, the quicker it's going to be done, the quicker it's going to be there. So it's very much like I'm very, it's funny because I'm very anti like yo-yo diet, go hard or go home. But like that is the way I took my financial journey because it worked in that sense. I knew it wasn't forever, and it's not the way I'd approach my health, but I did it that way anyway for my finances. But it got me to the position I am now. So I guess, it balances out in its way. But definitely times where you're just like, seeing that number climb down slowly, like, and you wish it would go so much faster. Definitely months where I'm like, it feels like I've made no dent. But then you look at it from the grand scheme, and you're like, oh, wow, like I have paid off a good amount.
I understand that. I feel like you have to do things that are drastic at times just to show yourself that you're committed to it. Seeing results quickly is always good too, especially if you're lacking motivation. You just build more confidence in yourself when you see like, oh, wow, I did this thing. It resulted in the way I wanted it to. What's stopping me from continuing this pattern? For you, for those who are in a similar situation, coming out of school or even in school and having debt, what's something that you would tell them?
I think a lot of younger people lack the ability to think future me. What does future me want? Because I've met a ton of people in their 20s and even in 30s, and they're like, oh, I haven't started saving for retirement yet. I'll wait. Things like that. Or even health-wise, like, especially girls in their 20s, like I'll exercise later. Like I feel like I look pretty good now, but I always think like you're making an investment into your body, into, with your money, with your body too. And so, getting on board with like, if I want to live a comfortable life, not be living paycheck to paycheck, because that's like the ultimate fear for me is living paycheck to paycheck. I need to handle this stuff now so I can do stuff. Like maybe you want to travel or whatever it is, go to more concerts, whatever. You have to set yourself up for that life starting now.
I love that, especially if you're in your early 20s. Even people who are single, like that's a prime season to start working on these things for yourself. But let's talk about relationships real quick. So when you were on this payoff journey, guessing you weren't married at the time, was he a fiance at the time or just boyfriend?
I think he was just my boyfriend, but we got married when we were together like 7.5 years. So we've been together for a while. And of course, when I found Dave Ramsey, I was like, you got to listen to this guy. But so we're very much on the same page with a lot of things. So like for whenever I was like, I want to do this, it's like, okay, I'm on board. So part of like the income, if anyone's wondering, like, how did she pay up everything with her amount of income? I also had like my husband's, and we were budgeting that way. But I very much wanted to pay off the debt like from myself because we weren't together yet. He didn't have any debt, and this was like a very much like this is a me thing. So I worked really hard to like pay it off strictly from myself. But he was really on board with a lot of it and really supportive. And although at times he's like, can we go out to eat? I'm like, no. So yeah, he was helpful in some ways and maybe not in some other ways.
How was that communicating this new lifestyle you were starting?
It wasn't that hard, to be honest, because he isn't someone that lived like a super flashy life anyway and like spending a ton of money anyway. Like I said, he didn't have any debt. He had a car that was paid off, lived well below his means. And so it's kind of like he was already like halfway there to when I brought it up. It was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I can, get on board with that. Because in the end, me getting out of debt was us getting out of debt and being able for us both to invest in our Roth IRAs and both go on vacations and, live the life that we really want to live.
Thinking about this as an us thing, truly a team effort. And so let's go to the moment you paid off this debt. How was that moment?
Yeah, it was like 50 pounds lifted off my shoulders. Like, I have all this freedom now. I felt like, I think we went out to eat probably that day. Like the first time in a long time. But just like relief in that, like, I can do the things I really want to do now, invest in my business, put more into my health, do all these things. And just like we had the future ahead of us finally.
And on top of that too, what are some ways now that you've been able to serve others and like what were some other goals now that you were able to now pursue now that you were debt free?
Yeah, for sure. Like investing in retirement was a big one because that's something that wasn't really talked about a lot growing up, neither for my family or for his family. As far as helping others, haven't done, like, I'll be totally honest, like it hasn't been 1000% on my radar, but I was able recently to go to a retreat and we did a community service event. It was really awesome because back then, like, I wouldn't have been able to do that, go on this retreat and help build, it was like a community garden. But we did that and it was super fun because I've been able to put more into my business. Now I've been able to join different groups that do community service. And we went to a women's shelter last month and made dinner for them. Yeah, it was really cool. And I was like, I really want to do, like, helping others is another, like, one of my love languages. So I really enjoy doing that, whether it's time. I like to give time and, like, just like hands-on things like that.
Did you make up for the gifts that you couldn't give out a few years ago?
Well, now my views on Christmas have really changed.
Okay.
But I still like giving gifts. I guess I'm a fan of gifts that, like, you can use something out of them, right? You can do something with it. I don't like things that, like, just take up space and don't have a use, I guess.
And then in regards to family, you come from a family that didn't talk about investing for your future too much. So what are your sources of financial education now?
Dave Ramsey was definitely one of them. Really helpful on just, like, getting started. I'm always someone that wants to get, like, education from a bunch of different resources because I think just getting, like, one thing from one person limits to, like, what you can understand and what you can learn. But I learned a ton from, and I'm blanking on her name, but she's an entrepreneur. She has, like, tons of different businesses. Just learning from other entrepreneurs who are doing what I want to do, running different businesses that are, like, the not so sexy ones, like a laundromat, like those type of things, like a car wash, and making money. Yes. So, like, things that, like, aren't so sexy and fun, but make really good money. So I get a lot of education from those people because they're doing what I want to do. And that's what I really like to learn from people who are doing what I want to accomplish.
That's perfect. Yeah, because you've dug yourself out of the hole, but now you're just building up. I'm sure everyone listening, they love your story. I love the way that you've expressed yourself throughout this whole thing as well. And I'd love to give you a chance to just give a shout out and let people know what things you have going on in your business, because I'm sure people want to stay in contact with you.
Yeah. First question, when is this airing?
End of this week.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
end of this week.
I'm on, like, every single channel at Maddy.nourishandlift. I do one-on-one women's coaching, and all of my Black Friday deals are starting on the 10th. So you can just find them there. The other thing I guess I'll pitch is I just started a podcast with my co-host, Allie. It's called Kinda Hot, Kinda Healthy. Very, very new. I think we're, like, 6 episodes in, but we're on everywhere, including YouTube too.
Hey, you and I both started these podcasts.
Yes.
People can come here to learn how to be wealthy, and they can come to you to learn how to be healthy.
Love that.
So, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe for more conversations like this about paying off debt and having financial peace. Peace.